We are welcome to the masses are still scattering away. Welcome to episode 104.
Calm down, everybody. Calm down.
Welcome to episode 114 of the Crafty Boys. Dave is in wherever the hell Dave lives. Alan is in Victoria. I'm in Vancouver, and Locke is here.
Hi.
Who has just arrived from an adventure to Victoria. So, hi everyone. Boys, how's it going?
Good. Yeah, it's been a fairly uneventful week here in Victoria. Like normal. Nothing ever happens in Victoria.
I got a haircut.
You got a beard cut. So
I did.
Look at this
didn't.
flicky, stuff
It's
going on
disturbing.
here.
Way to rub it in, jerk.
Oh, sorry. That actually wasn't meant to rub it in, but let me now rub my fingers through my silky, soft hair. Oh. So, how's it going up there in the...
Let me run my fingers through my silky soft hair, too.
Well played, sir. Well played. Dave, how's your hair up in the worlds of the Comox Valley?
Oh, just awesome. Nothing happens up here either.
See?
Less happens up here than in
Less.
Victoria.
Oh man, that sucks. So let's jump into the beer right away, just so we can get that out of the.
Just a second.
Let's get the beer out of the way because beer's beer.
Before we do that, I just want to give a shout out to a guy I ran into tonight, actually, while I was going to get the
With
beer.
your car?
Yes, there were minor injuries sustained. No, actually, at the store was Charlie DePap.
Charlie DePap. I don't know that name. Sounds like a jerk if you ask me.
Yeah. Anyway, he was saying that if I send him the link, he may tune in tonight. So, Shane, would you mind sending me, or no, you already sent me the, no.
I sent you the link via email. We can, does he, is he a tweeter guy?
No.
The Twitter, oh, he doesn't?
No.
That's pretty lame. Let's see.
I mean, the YouTube link. If you send me the YouTube link, I will send it to Charlie.
Although we have a short link. Hang on, let me grab it. I'll put it in the chat right now.
All right.
There you go.
Cool.
I'm surprised he doesn't do the Twitter thing. I'm kind of shocked.
Well, maybe he does, actually. I don't know.
Oh, wait, I put a space in his name. Let's see. Nope, he's a nobody. But anyway, yeah, so basically, anyone listening, Chuck DePap, he's awesome. He's cool. And he's now a realtor, so that kind of knocks him down a couple notches from improv artists. So I don't know what to do with that.
He still does some improv.
Oh, does he really? He does some stuff over there?
Not a lot of it.
Depending on what kind of realtor it is, you may do lots of it.
Well, here's the thing. If you're a realtor, now, and this is going to be down on realtors, but I built some websites for realtors 15 years ago. And this is before MLS was an opener, was a more open platform. So it was very difficult to deal with MLS and the listings, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And this company out of Edmonton saw some of the websites that we built, and they were like, dude, you make great websites. We totally have to team up. And I said, okay. So this guy flew to Vancouver to talk to me about potentially working with his company. Unfortunately, his company went out of business. But at that point, he was a pretty big deal in sort of the realtor sort of world, and was trying to make more websites for realtors. And I said, well, why are you doing this? What's sort of how what's the reason behind it? And it's because his parents were realtors for a long time, but he decided he wanted to help them. And this is probably late 90s at this point. But then he kind of got out of it because he found that realtors are really dumb. And I said, what do you mean they're dumb? They don't, like, I know some realtors. They don't seem that particularly stupid. Like, what are you talking about? And he had this huge stack of research that he had done, his own company had done, and then somebody out of Ottawa had done, like, I think these were thick, results and whatnot. And I said, well, what do these say? He said, well, realtors really, the average realtor has a high school education, and they don't go beyond that. They become a realtor more out of desperation than anything, and they're kind of stupid. And I'm like, what? And basically, it was this long sort of 2-week discussion about how dumb people were who became realtors, and that you might only find like less than 1% of them actually know what the hell's going on, or the rest of them just kind of basically hold on to their genitals and run forward until they hit a brick wall.
And make lots of money?
Well, this is the thing, is that he was making the argument that a lot of the stupid ones don't make a lot of money, but they stick it out because they're dumb. So they don't realize they're dumb, yet they make enough to survive.
Right.
The smart ones are the ones who own like multiple properties and things like that, right?
Sure.
So anyway, so I decided not to bother because MLS was just a pain in the ass to deal with, and they're still kind of, but they were a very draconian empire at that point, where you weren't allowed to have your listings on your own realtor website and like stupid shit like that. Things that realtors wanted, they didn't want to do because, they were the only shop in town for a long time. So my point being, Chuck is not one of those. He's actually a dude who has a theater background. So, and I've watched some of the videos that he's done over the years
they're awesome,
showing off houses. And you can tell he wants to bust out and kind of go,
oh, totally.
And anyway, there's something really important I want to show you. This is the toilet. Here are the 7 ways you could dunk your head into a toilet. Like, and just break out that way. But really, he's just got that ability to be a friendly personality that most realtors I've run into in the world don't have that. They're just, they're general people that, they know stuff about property. They know how to sell
charismatic.
That's actually a way clearer way of me putting it out. But yeah.
Anyway, I just want to give a shout out to
the multi-billionaire already. So
I've sent him the link. Hopefully he'll tune in. If not, well, maybe he'll tune in the future sometime.
You never know.
All right. So the beer.
Alan, what's the beer
this week? The beer this week is from Driftwood. It is the New Growth Pale Ale. Right there. All right. So this beer, it according to their website, celebrates the return of locally crafted beer brewed with regionally harvested ingredients. Driftwood Brewery and Sartori Cedar Ranch have combined their savvy to craft this unquestionably British Columbian pale ale. Sartori's Centennial and Newport hops shine through in this refreshing session beer. So it has an alcohol content of 5%. It's used the malts Pilsner and Crystal and Centennial and Newport hops, as I already mentioned. This is part of Driftwood's core selection, which means that you can get it year-round. And it's widely available throughout BC. So
bringing out the ballet penis.
Okay, I've got my my Steam Whistle bottle opener, which I got at Beer Fest a couple of years ago.
Doing a pour. Pale ale. It's really light for a pale ale.
Is it?
I'm just pointing that out as the pale. Never mind. Not bad. I poured it so it had a little bit of a head.
It's cloudy.
It does appear to be unfiltered.
See, I'm not getting that from mine at all. Mine actually seems pretty clear.
Mine looks totally like clouds.
That's interesting. Do I see any?
Look at that head on that beer.
Locke, does it look cloudy to you?
Yeah. It's not like wit beer kind of cloudy, but it's a little cloudy. Yeah.
Well, have a look at mine. Have a look at mine. I mean,
yeah, that looks. Hold on, show it up again.
It's there.
Put your finger behind the glass.
Yeah, put my. Is it?
Wait, that doesn't really want the condensation on our side.
Well, okay, yeah, unless there could be condensation on your glass. That could be it too.
It is definitely. I'm looking for Dave's reaction here.
It's a pale ale with a bit of a bite to it.
I was expecting mellower. Actually,
I was expecting mellower as well, but I'm not unhappy.
You were expecting mellower, or you were hoping for mellower?
Yes,
I
that's a good
think
point,
both.
Dave. Please make that
I
distinction.
think both.
Both, really?
I was expecting mellower, and I'm pleasantly surprised that it's got a bit of a hoppy bite to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no
Piney.
questioning about the.
I'm getting pine.
Pine. It's like they might have
Resiny.
thrown in Bruce. Maybe?
So it's interesting. I got a growler recently from Twa Dogs Brewing.
Oh yeah,
Right.
At Victoria Caledonian, just hop, skip, and a jump from my house. And I got their pale ale because I was having some company over and I wasn't too sure what they'd like. I figured it was a nice, safe thing to get.
That's code.
And it was it was very similar. It was kind of had like this bit of a hoppy bite that I wasn't expecting, but was pleasantly surprised with. And it too had a bit of sort of like a piney kind of flavor to it. That's interesting.
It kind of has an aftertaste that kind of sticks to your mouth a little bit.
Yeah, some kind of grippy mouthfeel of that.
Yeah. It's not unpleasant. I'm just saying that it kind of the roof of my mouth.
It hangs there right at the top of the mouth.
So this is growth, is it? So what is it? Wet hop?
Doesn't say, I don't think. No, doesn't say.
Doesn't say.
We're also missing a beer unit rating on this thing too.
Yeah, they don't publish one.
Well, I'm thinking on the basis of the fact that it's called new growth, this might be like fresh, like wet hop beer, which might explain the resininess and the kind of the grippy sort of mouthfeel.
Right.
There's a thought. I don't know, maybe.
You don't think they would be advertising that fact loud?
Well, I think they do. It's called new growth, and that's sort of in big letters. So I think it just maybe so.
But you're speaking as a guy that knows his beers intimately.
Well, yeah. I mean, usually it's more of a thing to announce that your hops are, that they're dry hopping something. But
okay.
But I mean, I don't know. Like,
what is this beer?
Whatever the case, like I'm assuming that something called new growth with local hops that they're going to be using fresh off the farm kind of thing, and I would sort of go with my theory that the reason it's a little bit resiny is because of that sort of characteristic. But that's just me sort of speculating. I guess I don't actually know. But I've had. I've had some beers that have some interesting effects with like freshly toasted malt. Like there's a Rogue product where they use malt that's like toasted like within 100 feet of the vat kind of thing, and it comes through. It's like got that.
So it goes into the toaster and bang into the vat.
Yeah.
Wow. That's some dedication.
Yeah. But this is a different effect, and it's green, and it's kind of bright, and I can see this going really well with certain foods. Like, let me think. Like anything that's going to be sort of like, sort of rich or whatever, this is going to cut it a little bit, which is going to be nice,
What does this go with? Food-wise. If you were to pair this with something.
Oh, like I would. Okay, I'm just going to take a shot. Roast beef and Yorkshire puddings.
Oh, wow.
Oh yes. Because that is one of those combinations that you never forget. You've had it once and you know exactly what it tastes like. It's like that. Doesn't matter what restaurant you go to, or if you make it at home, it always tastes the same no matter how it's done. It's hard to.
I'm going to I'm going to disagree with Locke there. I think that this beer would go perfectly with Eggo frozen waffles, the blueberry variety.
All right.
Yes.
I am willing to believe
Because I have no idea what I'm talking about. What would this go well with? It's beer. It'd go well with anything.
This would go well with dog intestines and baked beans.
Right. There you go.
I had that for lunch.
It was delicious.
Dog intestines.
So,
Snake
Dave, what would you
surprise?
pair it with?
What was that for me?
Yeah, what would you pair it with?
Well, my knee-jerk reaction was salmon.
Really?
Oh.
Why?
I don't know why. I've got salmon on the brain these days. There's lots of it around. I'm liking it.
There's a few things that can go good with, and maybe it's just down to whatever we're sort of hungry for these days. But
Speaking of salmon,
I just came back. Look, I just came back from Oxford, so I've been indulging in a little roast beef and a little Yorkshire pudding. But
Yeah, and I'm
those
sure
are-
it was pretty awesome too.
give us some adventure stories from Oxford.
adventure stories. Let me see.
Well, before we do that, let's get a final word on the beer.
I dropped my penis.
Oh no.
Yeah.
So okay, let's get a final word on
Hit it
what
with
do
the
we
laugh.
think? Locke?
So yeah, I don't know, adventure stories. Let me think.
Well, just a second. Before that, get a final word on the beer. What do we think? Yes, no?
Yeah, I'm into it. I would drink this again.
Yep.
Yep.
So
Yep, same here. Dave?
I enjoyed it, and
I think I would pass.
And in particular, I would bring this to any kind of dinner that I thought it was going to be like sort of.
Okay, so Driftwood's new growth, 3 out of 4 Crafty boys approve.
Yeah.
but we ignore that fourth crafty boy because you have to.
Okay. Adventures.
No fight at a day. That's terrible.
And now it's time for Lock Corner.
Okay, all right. Let me think. Okay, so have I? Did I tell you any of these stories like last episode?
Oh, probably, but tell us again.
Oh shit. Okay. Yeah. You see, here's the problem with beer podcasts: is you sort of sometimes forget stuff. All right. So
It's true.
So I think I probably made some mention of. I know. So we went on a pub crawl. Me and the other students. It was actually organized by the program, and it was to. Let me see what. Let me see.
You went to the pub where Churchill went, or
Oh yes, yeah. I mean, now it's hard to go to a pub that's been around for 150 years that Churchill didn't go to. But, yeah, no. I have indeed been to a couple of those. This what was interesting about this was we went sort of south of town, and so we initially caught like a van down there, and we hit 3 pubs whose names I will not remember until later. But right now, I'm going to tell you the first one was we had a meal and it was quite nice, quite pleasant. I think, what did I have? I think I had a bitter. Most of
did you know her?
We're drinking cider, I think. What did I have? I had, I think it was a salad with some kind of roast meat on it. But yeah, no, and we got one of those plowman's boards, which meat and cheese and stuff. It's quite good. So anyway, so after that, we leave and we go to the next pub, which was a bit of a hike from there, but it got us some exercise. It was nice and pleasant day. So we go out, we walk over to this next pub, and this one was another sort of oldie pubby, as they do. I got to say that the choice of beer there was a little limited, so it was probably run by some, management company or brewery or something. The only particular memory I have of that place in terms of the beer was that they got the wrong beer, they got the wrong cask, and so while whatever their tap said, what they in fact had was Bombardier, and so I had a bunch of those, and they were quite tasty. And so all of us law students all hanging out, all sort of talking law and all that kind of stuff, and getting a little sort of sippy with our cups. And so then most of the crew left, and then a few of us carried on to walk all the way back to Oxford, which was a bit of a hike, but we decided we'd do it. And you follow along the river, which is a really pleasant walk. And so we're following along, and we run into the best thing ever, which was a whole herd of cattle. All
cattle.
All cattle, because you would do well to remember that Oxford is called Oxford for a reason. It's where you used to ford your oxen. Right? Okay. It's the place where the river Thames is low enough that you can get the cattle across. So it's sort of marshy, right? So it's one of those, it's odd the number of places that have massive political and social acumen and power and influence that are ultimately swamps. Washington as well as Oxford here, but and for that matter, Holland. I mean, people build great stuff in swamps. But so anyway, Oxford is named for the fact that it's where you used to ford your cattle, and there we are walking down the path, and there are a herd of 150 cattle just kind of milling around in the middle of the road. And so we're kind of looking at each other, and somebody's like, how do we know if one of them is a bull? And I'm like, well, if one of them has an udder that seems to only have 2 bits to it, and it's getting a little aggressive, probably get the fuck out of the way.
I would imagine the average cow / bull would not be, think of cows in like places like India where they're revered. And apparently, according to some friends of mine who live there, they're also dicks because they've grown up in this environment where humans don't screw them. So, because you're not allowed to piss them off. You're not allowed to eat them. You're not allowed to get in their way. Basically, they have right of way in wherever they are. And if you piss them off, they kick your ass. And I can imagine cows in England being treated well anyway. That if they're not being suspected of mad cow disease and being burned in pits in the ground, but still, I can see them kicking the odd ass on the average Oxford street.
Look, they're a big animal, but that said, I wouldn't say they're particularly active. And this wasn't on an Oxford street. This is out in the countryside. Like this is we're walking along the River Thames here.
Okay, so basically you're out in the Tules.
Yep.
And you got razzled by some
razzled.
Okay. Some asshole cows.
Oh, I didn't have a problem with that. Like I'm used to cattle. I mean, shit, I grew up sort of up until I was 4 living on a farm. So they were a bunch of cows. They were.
So what did you do with the cows?
Getting rambunctious, and they were sort of. But I mean, just playfully kind of knocking around with each other. You do want to get out of the way if they're going to do that, because they're a big animal and they fall over and hit you. I mean, that's no good. But anyway, so it was no issue. We just walked past them or whatever. But it was cute that we ran into a whole bunch of cows in Oxford. Yeah. So anyway, there we go.
Cool. Hey, I have a question for you. So Oxford is very historical.
It is.
Some might say it maybe is haunted.
Yeah. I mean, look, depending on what tour you go on to, they'll try to say that a lot.
Oh, yeah. Have you had any experiences there?
Of haunting? Actually, it's funny you mentioned that. There's really only been one occasion. And it was at Christchurch Cathedral, and I think somebody was tuning the organ, but it was the eeriest.
Were they actually tuning a real organ?
Look, this is the thing. It was the eeriest, most dysfunctional sound you've ever heard. It's an old pipe organ, not playing what you would normally describe as organized music. Like, if put it this way, if it was music, then there must have been a ghost at work, because normal people do not make music like that. It was, I think somebody was tuning the organ, is I think what was going on, but it was like this disjointed sort of like. You
were startled by this? Is that?
I wouldn't say startled. I was just, I mean, I was digging it, but it was like, oh my God, this is like the sound of a corpse coming to life. It was like Henry VIII kind of reaching out,
reaching from the grave, going, I have one more composition.
I mean, look, the thing about the sound of somebody tuning an instrument is it's
eerie.
It sounds sort of sufficiently random. It's a little bit, it's enough like the activity that comes, the disinterested activity that comes from, say, like a Ouija board.
Okay.
That potentially some unconscious informational existential operator might start acting through that disinterested randomness.
Okay.
And that's what it felt like. And if you've ever been in this place, you would know what that would seem like, because I mean, it's, as cathedrals go, it's not like a Victorian cathedral where it's huge and everything's grandiose. It's got that Tudor sort of slightly, I don't know how to describe it. It's not primitive exactly, but it's not, there's something about it that's fundamentally archaic. It's like from another world somehow. And to hear this random disjointed sound making musical timbers but in unmusical shapes was, yeah, it was fascinating. That's the closest I've come to ever having a sort of a haunting experience in Oxford. Although if you go on the tower tour, which I did a while ago,
London Tower.
No, not the London Tower. The Tower of Oxford.
Tower of Oxford. Okay.
Yeah, so it's a former prison, and ultimately before that a Norman castle. But yeah, I mean, the tour guides all pretend to be ghosts. So I don't know.
Really?
Yeah, if that feels like a haunting, then sure.
Welcome to the tower.
The one really good bit though is the last time I did that, because it's cool to check out. Like it's an interesting place.
Cool.
But the last time I did that, the guy doing the tour, as luck would have it, was enacting the character of a skeleton that is actually kept over at the Oxford Museum, which is a totally different museum. And unless you've been to the Oxford Museum and were a total history nerd like me, and you happen to take an interest in the skeleton, find out something about him. So I'm talking to the tour guide, and he's explaining who he is, and then mentions that he was used, for medical dissections. And I'm like, I put it together. I'm like, you're the skeleton over there, and he's like, yeah, but we're talking like he's in first person still, like he isn't breaking character, and I'm not trying to get him to break character. I'm just, oh, you're the skeleton. He's like, yeah, that's me, and I'm like, oh well, dead ringer.
That is actually, that's actually kind of cool to be able to be in a situation like that where you have a performer being a character that, you can question, you can ask things up.
Yeah.
My real experience for that is the tunnels in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan.
Oh.
There's actually this there's a bunch of tunnels underneath the town, where basically, the story is that it was used for a lot of, it's Saskatchewan, so it's bloody cold. So they have these tunnels going from different buildings and whatnot in the downtown area. But back then, that was pretty much the town. And a lot of immigrants from China and whatnot were in town, of course, to work on the railroad and that kind of stuff. So it gave it, they built a lot of these things to get away from the cold, but also, you're Chinese at that time, and it wasn't exactly the most friendly of environments. But because these tunnels have been there and they're still they're not being used per se, but they've been turned into a museum where there's actors going around, and the whole thing that they're really building their narrative on is that the Chicago mob came north on the railway to go to Saskatchewan to basically supply the United States during Prohibition with booze. So, all the famous mobsters, Al Capone.
There were bootleggers in Saskatchewan?
Apparently. So
Wow.
they would take the railway up there. There'd be these places where they could store booze and then bring it into the States as needed. So, yeah, it was it's sort of this big deal. And they actually have really cheap animatronics at times to perform different things.
Nice.
So if you haven't gone, if you ever find yourself in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, I recommend it because the people who lead you around are fully in character. They're doing that whole thing. And
cool. I like it.
so, it's kind of neat. Great for acting students at U of R or whatever.
Cool.
So anyway, getting away from...
Did any of you guys see the eclipse this week?
I did.
That's what I was going to say.
Yep.
I did. From the comfort of my YouTube live stream from Vancouver.
Did you
I
wear the
had
glasses?
NASA and Vancouver running on different windows, and it was cool. But it did bring to mind of some of the arguments of people that have made over the last 50 years or so about how the moon is actually a construct, because how could you have a sun and an object like the moon being at the perfect distance to create eclipses?
Yeah, it's.
Have you heard these weird conspiracy things?
I had not heard that one. I arrived by a totally different route.
Oh, really?
Which is to say that it seems like extraordinary good luck that the only planet in our solar system, the only one that we've identified yet that has life on it, has a body orbiting it, which is sufficiently similar, that is to say, roughly big enough to have not the same but similar gravity, such that it wouldn't crush us to pieces or be impossible to get ourselves landed upon effectively. If you were going to seed a planet with the idea that eventually whatever it grows, that seed grows, is going to get off of that planet and enter space somehow or do something, you would pretty much need to do that. That's pretty much the prerequisite instrument by which that happens. Now, the other thing that it does is by orbiting this planet, it stirs up the liquid water, which is exactly the right distance from the sun in order for it to do that, right? And you need that stirring mechanism in order for tides to be regular and active to mix up the soup that makes organic chemicals interact in especially soupy ways that you get, right?
Are you suggesting that our moon is actually no moon at all?
No, I'm suggesting
it's a space station.
No, I'm suggesting that well, actually, it might be a space station, but only in the non-stationary variety.
Yeah, well, I'd actually only heard of this recently.
No. What I'm suggesting is totally that it is a moon, but that ultimately that the coincidence of life is highly dependent upon it, and the coincidence of its circumstances what you would require for there to be a next step.
Yeah.
So the idea that at a bare minimum, this planet might have been selected to try to generate something like that. I mean, to generate life, it's not the craziest idea out there. Truthfully, if you look at So, I mean, the two argumentative schools of thought have traditionally been random evolution and intelligent creation. And my suggestion is that maybe the better answers, respectively, might be either intelligent evolution or something like it.
Mm. So, as somebody who has actually taken university level astronomy and astrophysics courses, I feel I should just say that although
Lame.
yes, the moon is
Sad.
at a perfect distance where it is exactly the same, takes up exactly the same amount of area in the sky
Radius.
as the sun does when we're looking up at the sky. Okay. And yes, that is a bit of a coincidence, but I will point out that the moon changes its distance from the Earth every year. It actually moves farther away from us by about 30 centimeters a year. So eventually, it's not going to take up the same amount of space in the sky. And in fact, in historically, it took up more space in the sky than the sun did.
Yeah, apparently
Now-
the eclipses will disappear from the surface of the Earth in like 300 million years or something.
Hmm.
I don't know. That's what I heard the other day when the eclipse was happening. Like everyone got scientific, and I mean, I was watching the NASA feed, and the NASA feed had 700 minutes, it seemed like, of them talking about how you shouldn't blind yourself by looking at it. My favorite thing, of course, is Trump and his
Yeah.
wife both looking up, without the glasses. And, they're obviously looking somewhere away where they're not quite, but you kind of hope they were looking directly at it, and now they're just blind. My corneas are cooked. Yeah. So, Dave, did you watch it? I don't know what were you doing when the eclipse was happening?
I went out and tried to see, but it was cloudy up here. It was bullshit, unfortunately.
Oh,
I
It
heard
was
Victoria
slightly
was
cloudy
pretty
here,
nice,
but
actually. It was clear
Beforehand.
in Victoria, but not up here.
Victoria was clear.
On Monday, yeah.
Yeah. It was with the use of a cereal box, but
Okay, good.
Victoria was clear. I was working actually, and I kind of saw out the window that it was getting darker, but I didn't have any special glasses or anything, and I was like, whatever.
Yeah, that's why I watched the live stream, because I was not going to look up at the sky. But it was okay. It was cool. I mean, I still remember the last time we had an eclipse in this region, which was oh my god,
I think it was 79-ish.
somewhere in there, because I have memories of that event happening. I don't recall with great clarity, but I know that my parents were excited about it, and we did actually see it at the time. But I'm not blind, so I must have been, adequately prepared at the age of, 5 or 7 or whatever it was. So yeah, no, it was cool, and it's kind of exciting that we'll have another one going through Quebec, I think, in 2024.
Yes, actually, I think I read that there won't be another total solar eclipse in this region for another 800 years or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So there's also one going through the Northwest Territories at some point in the next 50 years. There's also another. I think the next one is actually that touches North America is actually going through like the farthest sort of western side of Alaska as well, which is I think 2020 or something. I don't know, and you can look it up. There's all kinds of information that you won't get from me. So this actually kind of jumps into the next thing I want to know about, specifically the Alberta woman who finds a lost ring on a carrot.
oh wow, that's a good one.
I want to know. I want to know more about this, Alan. You found this story. What is that?
Yeah, I did. So it's kind of a funny story. So this woman in Alberta, I guess she has a farm or garden or something.
One would suppose.
And she's out gardening, doing her field work. This is probably like oh gosh, how many years ago was it? Quite a few years ago. And she lost her engagement ring. It was 13 years ago. She lost her engagement ring in the farm field. This year, they pulled a carrot from the ground, which actually had her engagement ring that she lost 13 years earlier, wrapped around the shaft of the carrot.
That's amazing.
It is amazing, isn't it?
It's sort of wild.
Okay.
The carrot evidently
knew that something was up.
Grew into the ring, and it's one ring to rule the carrot. I don't know.
One ring to rule the carrot. One ring to rule the whatever.
Yeah.
This story actually kind of is hilarious to me because if you are a fan of British television, there is a TV series that's had a couple of seasons already. I think there's a third on the way, called The Detectorists. And it is the actor Toby something. I've forgotten. Sorry? Toby Jones. Who's the other guy? This is all from the Peanut Gallery, by the way. You know the guy that had
Toby Jones and the other guy.
The other guy, he was in the Pirates of the Caribbean films. He was the guy with the wooden eyeball.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know
the skinny guy who's been. He was also in the original Office. Anyway, long story short, he these two guys got together to make this film about people that wander around the fields of the middle of England looking for metal in the ground. The whole idea is that they want to find, a cache of Roman gold or something, or a lost ship, or whatever this whole thing is. And if you haven't seen it, is an astounding. It's addictive to watch because not a whole lot happens. It's guys that go from field to field, walking around, just with these earphones on, these metal detectors, walking along, talking about life, similar to this show here, which is kind of cool. So I would recommend it. It's an amazing show. But this story here, the one with the ring around the carrot, did I just say that? Ring around the carrot. It's kind of cool because that's essentially what these guys are looking for, is rings around carrots.
It looks like a mandrake.
It does look like a mandrake.
It does.
Quick, get a fence around it. That totally was not a nerdy joke about video games.
So here's what I want to know. Alan, Dave, do you have any thoughts on what the hell just went on with Rocket Madsen and his submarine and what's her name, Wells, whose torso they've just pulled out of the water between Sweden and Denmark?
What?
Have you been following any of this?
No.
I only have heard the barest details, but something smells a little on the fishy side.
Yeah, well,
in Denmark.
My jokes are worse. Sweden.
Kim Wall, yeah.
Denmark. What's her name?
Kim Wall.
Kim Wall. Tell us more.
Right. Well, so the story, so far as I understand it, is she's a famous international journalist. She was doing a story on Rocket Madsen, or Peter Madsen, I think his real name is. Everybody calls him Rocket Madsen because
who is this guy?
So he's a Swedish inventor, Swedish, I think, inventor, who has been preparing to try to build the first, like his own personal private space ship or whatever, get himself into space, and he's already built his own submarine. Anyway, so Kim Wall was invited, I gather, onto said submarine because she was working on a story on this guy or something like that. And they went out cruising around in the submarine. and the submarine was spotted sometime, I don't know, about 10 p.m. or something like that. She got on about 7 or 8, something like that. And then at about, I don't know, somewhere between there and the next morning, the submarine had apparently sunk, and Madsen was found in the water, rescued apparently, and he claimed that he had dropped Kim off on an island, and then nobody could find her, and then the police decided that it apparently seemed as though the submarine, which had sunk, had been sunk on purpose. And then they started dredging the area looking for a body, and they found a torso, which by the forensic evidence had its head and limbs cut off, apparently hers. It also had a piece of metal attached to it, which would seem to have been intended to keep it on the bottom of the ocean. Or the sea, I guess it would be because that's the Bering Strait, or not the Bering Strait. What is it? What the hell is that? The
Orsend,
or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the plot thickens. It would seem to me that so then Madsen changed his story and said, "Well, actually, I didn't drop her off. Actually, what I did was I buried her at sea." And everybody knows you got to cut up the body if you're going to bury them at sea, right?
Well, clearly.
But apparently what he says is it was an accident. What kind of an accident isn't clear here. But if there's an accident, wouldn't you go directly to port and say, "Oh my God, there's been a terrible accident"? Or would you chop the body up into bits and sink the submarine? Yeah.
And a metal thing into the torso to sink it.
Very interesting question. It's not something that necessarily has direct bearing on the state of world peace or anything like that. But my God, what a bizarre story.
You know what's really weird? That my entire life seems to revolve around shows that no one else has ever seen. There's a program I want to say it's out of Sweden, but it's called The Bridge. And it is where this happened, where this woman died. There is a show based around that bridge where a serial killer takes a body, murders a bunch of people. I'm kind of spoiling it, so I hope that doesn't matter to anyone. And takes a torso from one national, the legs of another, puts them together at the center of that bridge. And it starts this whole story of police from here and Copenhagen and Malmo, or around it, working together and actually trying to solve this murder.
Interesting.
So it's interesting to me that this horrible thing to this reporter has happened, because you look at it as if you read the entire story, it's just fucking weird, but it's not as weird as this television show that's been going on for like 3 or 4 years in Denmark about this horrible serial killer that puts dead bodies on that bridge nearby. It's so strange. The world is going to hell. Way to go, Obama. But yeah, no, it's kind of funny. You started talking about this thing, and I'm like, wait a minute, is that the same bridge? And I look, and it is. That's horrible. This Kim Wall woman has been dismembered and thrown into the ocean. That's kind of
but I mean, sure. That's obviously bad. You don't want people to be dismembered and thrown in the ocean.
It's bad.
But I would suppose that whatever happened previously to her being dismembered was probably also quite bad. I would just be curious to know what the fuck happened. This guy evidently seems to have been fairly reputable, like at least to the extent that he had managed to successfully build his own submarine. What happened? She was admittedly a beautiful,
Maybe that was the problem.
informed and bright journalist. What did he try to rape her or something? Or what
Probably.
happened? Well, what? Probably.
You know what? That seems like the most reasonable thing.
Could it have been something else though? Could there have been? Did she know something about how he had gone about what he was doing, that he was uncomfortable with being revealed, or
Maybe
more to the story here? Like, I guess it's
maybe she ate his bag of chips. I mean, who knows?
For what?
His bag of chips. Like maybe he had a bag of chips, Allie or whatever, and then he was intending that to be his dinner, and she ate them. I mean,
yeah, because everybody knows that makes sense. Okay.
And everyone knows Todd is a vicious killer. Inside joke.
Ladies and gentlemen, don't eat Todd's chips.
Never do that.
Never eat Todd's chips. Ever.
never.
Dave, by the way, to give you some context, many years ago, myself and Alan were over at Todd's house, and there was a bag of, I think, Doritos or something in the kitchen, and he was watching like a hockey game in the next room or something, and I think I don't know what we were doing. We were making dinner or doing something, but our focus was not on this bag of chips. It was just in the way. We were putting plates out or something, and we moved it. And the crinkling plastic was like my pug freaking out if you crinkle plastic in there. Todd just bolts into the kitchen from out of nowhere, and he's like, "Those are my dinner! What are you touching those for?" It was so weird. It was strange, and I never quite recovered. I'm so hurt. But it was just so strange, and it's always been in my memory of this weird moment of, dude, I wasn't after your chips, so don't please don't dismember me and throw me in Beaver Lake. It's just one of these bizarre sorts of things. And here's the thing. I read this, I'm just skimming this story, and you're talking about it, and I'm thinking, you're right. I want to know what happened, because it's kicked up in my mind about like who really was, Jack the Ripper, like these famous sort of things. Like, this is going to go down in history as being strange unless they get the full story from the guy. But it's one of these things where it's like there's something has occurred in a place that no one else could witness, and you just really want to know. You're like, what set you off to bury this woman at sea without her limbs? Like, it makes no sense. Did they find her head?
I don't think so. No, at least the last I heard of it, not.
Negligent manslaughter seems to be.
Well, I mean, was it negligent manslaughter? It sounds like it could have been a lot more than negligent.
Now, apparently,
I guess what I'm saying is that on the news reporting so far, like, yeah, the charge so far has been negligent manslaughter, if anything, but it doesn't fit the facts. Like, nobody who killed somebody by mistake, even if they were going to try to cover it up, I mean, the extent of the dishonesty, and when you've worked hard enough to build your own submarine, like you designed and built a submarine, you're really going to just sink the fucking thing?
Yeah, well,
it's got to be something that's really.
The submarine was deliberately sunk. That's a piece that we haven't talked about. The guy sunk it on purpose. And this is really sad, but my brain is instantly gone to, her going, you built a time machine out of your own submarine? Because the only thing I can think of is that he made his own nuclear reactor, and her going, is that a nuclear reactor? And him going, you must die. Like, I don't know. It's really weird to me. Like, that's the only thing in my entire brain that goes, what is this? What is as serious as either you're completely off your rocker, which sounds like the guy might be, but
functioning.
What would you do inside of a submarine that would cause you to go to the lengths of somebody dying? Like, she opened a door and something was irradiated or something.
But this is exactly it. I mean, this is why I'm curious is because the facts are sufficiently extreme. The gap between I dropped her off and I chopped up her body, weighted it down, threw it in the ocean, and sunk my own self-built submarine is like there's some distance there. You see what I'm saying? Like somewhere the human heart and the human mind went really fucking bonkers, and the fact pattern that's going to lead to that, I don't think it's garden variety. And I'm curious about it because I'm interested in people. That's all it is, you know. Mm-hmm. It's none of my business ultimately. Like I'm not a relative of either of these.
Well,
people,
I mean, this caption on this photograph, because here's the thing: this was not like she boarded it, you know, and no one knew. Like she's like, I'm going to go report this. I'll call you when I get home. No, she actually got on. People took photographs. It was a big deal that she was going on this boat. They knew she was on this ship, and they sent this caption on the photograph says, Kim Wall boarded Peter Madsen submarine Nautilus, but we do not know what happened next. Summarizes the whole thing in just one sentence. You're just like, this part needs to be filled in. The I don't know part, we have no idea. And it just brings up all these things about, you know, famous murders that have gone unsolved. Like, you know, what's her name? Hacked her parents to death with an axe.
Lizzie Borden.
Yeah, there's a new TV show.
There was a TV show on a couple years ago.
I fucking hate the soundtrack.
Oh, really?
I love Christina Ricci.
I watched the first episode.
For Christina Ricci.
Yeah, that's what I.
But no, the soundtrack is.
Well, I watched the first episode of that, and that's kind of what came to the surface in my brain when we were talking about this. It is a famous murder that everyone kind of suspects what happened, but really when you boil it down, you don't actually know what occurred.
And the editing is 90s grunge, which I'm
I didn't watch it that far. They had they did the anyway, long story, whatever, who cares? Lizzie Borden, maybe not. Christina Ricci's hot. What else can we say? I want to jump out of this into the other story because this one is kind of awesome. And it's a bit more upbeat. An undercover CIA agent wants to crowdfund the purchasing of Twitter so that they can do one thing, and that's kick Trump off of Twitter. So they've raised about 600. Here's the thing: they've raised less than $6,000 of their $1 billion goal to buy Twitter to kick off Trump. Hashtag buy Twitter. Hashtag ban Trump.
Well, and actually probably the most surprising part of all this is that White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders said that low dollar total shows that the American people like the president's use of Twitter.
That's totally what it's all about.
Absolutely. I think the main thing we have to remember there is she's paid to say that.
They've raised $31,000 as this campaign is trending according to GoFundMe. Noticing a lot of people that are donating anonymously. Here's the thing: is that I'm sure if you dig back into his tweets, he's probably violated the terms of service of Twitter a few times.
Probably.
Again,
well, who was it? Didn't I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was Will Wheaton. Sent out a tweet that Trump threatening nuclear war against North Korea has to be a violation of the terms of service on Twitter. I mean, there's got to be some sort of a clause in there where you can't declare global thermonuclear war against another country.
Apparently, on August 11th at 7:29 a.m., so he was obviously on the toilet. Military solutions are now fully in place, locked and loaded should North Korea act unwisely. Hopefully, Kim Jong-un will find another path. It's implied.
He doesn't say thermonuclear. Now, the fact that both countries have nukes kind of suggests that it could go that way. But
exactly. So,
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think you know, does Kim Jong-un tweet?
Well, he doesn't allow people to use the internet, so probably not.
Probably not. Okay.
Although,
Probably
I picture Kim Jong-un as like him going, having a Twitter account, but him talking about like video games all the time. I just picture him sitting around playing games.
He probably has like a YouTube channel or something.
Yeah,
you know that.
My name's Bill, and I live in Iowa. I like Counter-Strike Go because that's the best game ever. I don't know. That's totally what I see him doing.
Well, he must stay in touch with Redmond somehow.
That's a good point. How is he going to get all of his basketball info? So it's interesting how here's what bugs me about this. It's an emotional response to something that should be treated with a bit of thought. I'll tell you a story. Because I have a dog right now who's hurt her back, and I have to carry her around to take her outside. I was carrying her up, and I only learned this after the fact. I was bringing her back inside, and I went upstairs. I put her back in a little cage she has to stay in at the moment. And I happened to be on, I went on Facebook to check the sort of private messages thing, which I do every couple of days. But I happened to notice that one of my neighbors had posted something about dog poop in the hallways. I thought, oh, that sucks. What the hell? So I go and I look, and it was like reading a 14-year-old girl being angry about something that they read on the internet. That they were pissed about this, and this shouldn't happen, and, free Paris Hilton or whatever. But he was very angry, and it was written poorly, and it was kind of embarrassing. I was kind of embarrassed for him. But then about a few minutes after I read this, I'm like, oh my God, dude, come on. You're supposed to be, a little more mature than that. And then about 5 minutes later, my brain goes, well, wait a second, reread that, because you might be responsible for that. And I thought, oh, so I went and read it again and realized he was talking, because the whole thing he had posted about was that somebody had let their dog crap in the hallway. And I thought, oh, no, that's really horrible. And then 5 minutes later, my brain goes, you were carrying your dog. Do you actually realize that maybe she was doing her business, when you didn't realize? And I thought, well, you're right, because when I carry her up the stairs, I'm holding her a certain way to support her. She could actually go to the bathroom, and I may not realize it. So I went to the hallway where the incident had occurred, that photos had been taken of and posted online, rather than cleaning it up. I don't quite get that part, but whatever. So I went and I thought, oh, and sure enough, I go back and it was still there. And I thought, okay, well, I'll get cleaning supplies and I'll clean it up. And, there's one side of it where it was probably me, but then there's that other side where maybe it wasn't my dog, maybe someone else. But I figured it was probably my dog because I was carrying the animal. And so this thing about this person wanting to buy Trump's thing is totally that sort of emotional thing about, that people do online. And they're like, this is terrible and we should string them up and set them on fire, rather than going, well, maybe, he's a dick and we should just focus on,
See, look, I've always been sort of big on the idea that if you don't let idiots talk, they'll be harder to identify.
Good point.
One of the things that I find a little, distressing about the way things are going, in terms of the political rhetoric of the day is there are a lot of very nasty, very angry, very, very cynical, very, very mean-spirited people right now using freedom of speech as an excuse to say hateful things, not because they believe in the freedom, but because they believe in the hate. Now, I think that they should have the right to say that stuff because, like I said, it's good to be able to identify those people. That way you can see them coming.
Yeah.
What bothers me is that there are a lot of people who should know better than to take them at face value, than to take their word for it, that they're having a freedom of speech rally. And instead of saying, you know what, say whatever you want. You look disgusting. There's something really wrong with what you're saying, not because you're free to say it, but because what you're saying says ugly things about your character, right?
Yeah.
And instead, they're taking them at their fucking at their word and saying, "Yeah, you should be allowed to say that." You know what? That's what they're trying to bait you into. You know, like it's when somebody is needling you in a way to try to get you to take a punch because they know that that's going to get you in trouble, you know, right? It's that kind of maneuver, and I think there are a lot of people who are taking the bait, and I think that's troublesome.
Let's talk about that horrible thing that happened in the Carolinas. No, we're not talking about that.
Oh, you know what embarrasses me is that one of these jerkholes that's hip deep in this stuff is apparently a freaking Canadian. I cannot remember his name, but there was a story on him in the Globe and Mail.
Well,
I mean, just like, really?
It's this actually. Well, you think of it this way: the rally, the anti-hate rallies, or whatever they're calling them, that have happened over the past week and a half or so, are very much like one of those things where people on campus of a insert name of university here go and shout down somebody who's there to give a speech or whatever the hell. That Yamanopoulos or whatever the hell his name was, who's a dick. He's, you know, whatever you want to think of him. From the stuff that I've read of him, he seems like kind of a penis. But he's been paid or goes to these organizations at universities, or used to. And then there were mobs that essentially attacked him and shouted him down so that he couldn't speak. And to me, that's a very slippery slope where you have this, country to the south of us that's very much wanting to protect the, First Amendment, that people can say whatever the hell they want, as crazy as what they say it could be. But you have the flip side of people saying, well, what he's saying is hateful. Well, okay, but you have to prove what they're saying is hateful in a court to say that this is actually hate speech, where it just could be an asshole opinion about whatever.
Here's a good way to sum all of this issue up.
Yeah.
In a nice succinct statement. This came from a famous barrister. You can't be angry and intelligent at the same time.
That is Dave. No, that's actually, that is actually, I like that. That actually does remind me about you can't be rational and angry at the same time, because anger is not a rational emotion.
Emotions are
emotions in general.
Emotions cloud your judgment.
Exactly. But yeah. So say it one more time.
You can't be angry and intelligent at the same time.
I like that. Dave.
Yeah.
So Dave, you decided if you're going to Beer Fest?
No, I have not.
Hey, Alan.
Yeah.
How many tickets are left?
Well, apparently they said there's only a few left for the Saturday. They didn't provide numbers for the Friday. I imagine there's actually a few left for Friday at this point.
You're supposed to say it's almost sold out if Dave.
Hey, Dave, it's almost sold out, so please get on it.
All right.
On that note, because I'm kind of depressed now, let's leave on the very last story that Dave doesn't do anything. He just looks pretty. That Alan provided, which is the Han Solo and Carbonite 3D wall sculpture.
Yeah.
Right
Maybe
now is
one of
on
them.
sale for $10, down from $50. I want one.
I want one too.
Ahem.
I'm thinking that we should order.
Sculpture. Are we talking life size?
It is. No, it's not
No.
life size. That'd be
Oh.
awesome.
$10.
No. I don't need one of those. I need a life size one.
Hang it from the wall. Has an included stand. Has red LEDs on the front because everyone could use a bit of Han Solo. It is 18 inches tall, 10.5 inches wide, and 2 inches deep. With a stand that's 4 inches deep. So, oh my god, it looks amazing. I totally want one.
I think we should.
No.
I think we should order. Huh?
Do I need one? No. Do I want one? Yes.
Yeah, I don't need one, but I want one.
If it were life size, you would need one.
I want to hang it on. Look, people are hanging it on the wall. Oh, it looks so good. But that's not
He's got a life size one.
Well, hey, actually, you know what? Oh, speaking of life-size Han Solos, I saw a stainless steel refrigerator
Okay.
that had a life-size Han Solo on the front of it.
Nice.
Like it was worked into the door, so it was on top of the fridge. When you opened it up, it was amazing.
Oh wow!
I would love that. That would
That's
be
a
the
very
coolest
sound
thing.
idea. That is.
Anyway, so leaving on that note, which makes me smile, Han Solo and Carbonite. We'll see you all next week. Any final words on the beer tonight?
No, it's very good. Thank you, Driftwood.
Thank you, Driftwood. It's
Yay!
a great pale ale. You're on notice, Vancouver Island Brewery.
Go drinking at the Drake.
Go drink at the Drake, and don't forget to visit Spinnaker's every day of the week, because why not?
Yeah.
Bye.